ChatGPT being sued by the New York Times and other authors. So the article came out about New York Times is suing OpenAI, ChatGPT for something like $768 million, some crazy super number. And I think earlier on in the year, like George R. Martin, the Game of Thrones guy, and some other, John Grisham, I think is one, some other big name authors, they're also going after OpenAI and such for copyright infringement. And what they're saying is that these companies, these AI companies, have used, like New York Times, their articles or their books, in regards to the authors, to train their models without being fairly compensated for it. So this is where it's going to be weird, right? Because in my gut, just as soon as I hear this, I'm just hearing, this is the swan song of a dying industry. So what's happening is New York Times realizes they're useless. Their news is no longer reputable because they destroyed the reputation years ago. No one's going to the New York Times and buying the New York Times because you can get the information online quicker and from a reputable source. So they realize we're dead in the market. We need to do something. What are we going to do? Well, what's going to kill them more is OpenAI, right? Just AI in general. I use ChatGPT now almost more than I do Google when I'm looking for information. And then I will cite further sources and then I'll actually verify it, because a lot of times, still remember, these AI systems, they will give you incorrect information. So always remember that you need to check this stuff. But it's something that's being used and they're hyper threatened by it, as they should be, because it's going to destroy them. I mean, they're thinking like these authors, like, hey, these things have learned from our books, and then now people can just generate entire new stories without me needing to be there. Yeah, that's what's going to happen. And it's absolutely going to happen. New York Times articles, it's like, oh, we're not going to need reporters anymore. Right, because these AI systems will be smart enough and they're going to be fast enough with real zero-day information to create generative news feeds for you. What's going on? You're not going to need reporters, and the factual. There'll be no bias in it, right? So there goes the New York Times. So I think these guys are just freaking out, just like the actors and everyone else, about, oh, they're going to use my likeness and my image. Yeah, it's going to happen. That's just the world. What are you going to do? Just stop it from saying, hey, we're not going to use OpenAI anymore. We're not going to use generative AI. Never going to happen. So what we're seeing here is just everyone freaking out, just like the music industry when they freaked out over Napster. Although Napster, I mean, we all know that was absolutely created to pirate music. Like these guys saying that OpenAI learned off their information and they're not being compensated. Well, did Google pay for them? Right? I mean, they're linking to those same pirated PDF files of the books, or they're still linking to the same news articles. They're scouring all that information, indexing it and everything. So are they going after them? No, because Google doesn't threaten them. It enhances them, makes people find them more. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously I'm not a lawyer. This is going to go to court and it'll be settled there. I see this happening as just they're going to settle. They're going to settle for some undisclosed amount of money, basically just to make them be quiet. If OpenAI is smart, though, and I think they are, they need to take this all the way to the Supreme Court and justify and hopefully prove that they're not using their information illegally in any legal form, because this is just going to keep happening. If they don't fight this right now, and maybe they are doing something illegal, and if they are, then they absolutely should be brought to terms for it and should be held accountable in court. So I think this particular thing needs to go all the way to the Supreme Court and needs an actual, real federal, kind of stamp of approval, or find out what they are doing and see if they're stealing their stuff. I'm also a little bit paranoid because I was watching that Netflix documentary, $1 billion code, about how Google stole the code from the Google Earth developers, the TerraView or whatever. That's a whole insane documentary. I highly, highly recommend watching that. Very nostalgic for old internet days and hacker days and stuff, but also really shows kind of the shady side of Google and what they've been doing. But so could OpenAI absolutely have a back door and just ripped all New York Times articles? Maybe they have that proof and that's why they're suing them, in which case, yeah, go after it. But that's not what my gut says. My gut's just saying that these guys are just pissed that their industry is about to be wiped out.